Hello everybody, welcome to the Royal Life Health Show. I could not be more excited right now because it is beautiful outside. I'm here in sunny South Florida and it is just breaking the weather. It's a little cool now. This is our big seasonal change. It's here in the morning and it's cool, and I'm out here working on my garden, and each year my garden becomes more and more progressed, I guess. I do better and better each year as learning, and you've seen me more times in the past say it's all a learning experience. And I got a bunch of stuff that I'm growing in the background. I'm growing some tomatoes, and there you can see I'm growing some arugula and some kale and some other collards and things like that. But my main thing growing on here is my fruit on my trees. And I just pulled this off my tree. This is a sour sap, or a guanabana. And I didn't even pull it off the tree. It was laying on the floor waiting for me. It must have just fell, right before I got out here, just wanting me to find it. But that reminds me of today's video. And today's video is talking about doing your best to grow your own food. One of the reasons I eat a raw vegan diet is to eat food as less or as least processed as possible. And when you're buying your food in a store or at a restaurant or somewhere else, you're not necessarily doing that. There's a lot of hands that have to touch your food before you eat it. And my goal in life is to be self-sufficient, and very efficient, and not have to worry about other people where I'm going to get food from or water from and so on. So when I was in New York and I didn't have a property to grow food on, I grew sprouts to try to make the best use of this, and or go to farmers markets. When you buy food in a local grocery store, a lot of hands have to take place to touch that. When you buy food that comes from halfway around the world, it takes a lot of manpower to get that food to you. But the foods we can grow locally, and you'd be surprised what a little space to grow stuff. So I went from an apartment to a townhouse to now a real house. And even when I had my townhouse, I'll never forget when a fellow said to me, "You have enough room in your little courtyard in your townhouse to grow food for you and your whole family, all you could ever need." And that always stayed with me and always hit me. So I ended up getting a little bigger place here. It's only a quarter acre, but I have a bunch of fruit trees, and I've learned how to grow a lot of fruit trees in a small area. And there's even bananas on a tree behind me, if you could see that there. There's some bananas, and it's just wonderful. But now here in South Florida, it's normally very warm outside, and you can't grow certain things all year round. In most parts of the world, summertime is when you're gonna have the weather that's good for growing, because it gets too cold in the winter. But here in South Florida, it's fall and winter is the time to start your gardens, and maybe into the spring. Summer is just too hot to grow many foods. There are certain foods that grow, but I'm just getting the garden in now, starting to grow, and just excited for life. I remember my neighbor told me, who's been living in Florida a lot longer than me, he says his fruit trees give him fruit in the summertime, and he eats mostly that's what he lives off. And then here in the wintertime, he has his greens that he grows in his garden. And every year I've grown collard greens really well and some other foods, but each year I try to take to the next level and grow more. So my challenge to you all now is, I talk about a lot about raw foods on this channel and so on, but my challenge to you all is when you eat your food, think about how many hands have touched that food before you've eaten it. Now, this food came right off this tree. I am the only person in this whole world that touched this food that I'm about to eat. That's pretty amazing when you think about the average grocery store bought produce has to go from the farmer to the packing industry to the manufacturer, flowing halfway around the world or even locally, to the supermarket people, and then the packers, and then the cash register before it finally gets to your house and gets in your body. And the more that happens, it's not just about people touching your food, it's about the time that takes to happen and how far away you're eating from nature. The closer you could eat to nature, the better. And this is the best you can get. I mean, the only way I could have got better was not even touch it and eat it right off the tree, which I have done on certain occasions. But my greens that are growing here, and it's all a learning experiment. But you can grow many of these greens right in your house. I know people growing some herbs on their windowsills in their house, or on their roofs in their house. But that's what I want you to think about today. When you think about that, and we might not be able to do it 100%. I still buy food from the local store, but just think: is there any food you're eating that hasn't touched many hands before you've eaten it? And just imagine the impact that makes not only on the environment, which is why so many people are involved in eating a healthy diet these days, but just on your body and the way it was meant to be. And then, there's things like learning how to pick the food right and really knowing what you're eating. And in the last couple of years, I've had a hard time going to restaurants because I don't know who's making my food or how they're making my food or what's going on with the food or where it came from or anything about the food. And I think about all of the environments to eat. It's probably one of the worst, unhealthiest place to eat is a place where somebody's making your food who you don't know, not knowing where the food came from, not knowing exactly what's in the food. That's pretty bad. I mean, at least when you go to somebody's house that's making you food, you know what they're making you, or at least you know that person, right? But when you go get food at a local farm, or just at a local restaurant or something, you don't know. So I'm not trying to put restaurants out of business here. I'm just trying to make you aware of how much we take a chance with our bodies and so much on a regular basis, and hopefully inspire you, encourage you to change and make your own food. I love to prepare my own food. I don't cook, but I prepare it, or have somebody I know make it, but I want to know what's in my food. I want to know how well it was washed. I want to know where it was grown, when it was picked. And every time I go and I buy food from the local grocery store or somewhere else, I just don't know that. So I try to seek out people I know that have fruit trees and maybe trade food with them. At least I know them and I know where the food is. And certainly when it comes to eating my food, I want to prepare it as much as possible. And I remember working at restaurants in New York City where there were people literally cooking on a grill and sweating over the grill as they're cooking. Absolutely gross. And this is what people are doing every day when they go to eat food out and so on. I know some people that get the majority of the food they eat in a truck, from a truck, on the side of the road. And then they wonder why they're not healthy or what's going on with their body. So, we should work hard and make the investment to try to set something up. Even if you're in an apartment in a big city, learn how to sprout. Get some trays, get some shelves, and learn how to sprout. You can make a lot of food sprouting. Juicing. You could juice every day on 100% sprouts. So learn how to do that. And there are certain foods. If you have a condo, I have a lot of mango trees, but some of these mango trees are called condo mangoes because you can literally grow them in a pot right in front of your condominium. And if you have a small plot of grass or something, forget about the lawn, take that out and plant some stuff. And we do that. You see those bricks right behind me there? You could certainly stick those bricks in any small piece of land and grow food. And that's what's growing right there. You can do that. So consider these things when you make your food choices. It's really important how serious you take your health. And at least stop eating from places you don't know where the food's coming from or what's going on with the food or what people are doing with the food. At least start eating in places where you know where your food came from. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing here, and I'm learning and growing, and we continue to learn and hopefully mature in what we do in our food choices. And I have another channel that talks about me growing food, which I'm still learning. And I've made many mistakes and I continue to make mistakes, but that's how we learn. But some of the biggest mistakes I made was by eating in restaurants and eating food I didn't know where it came from for a very long time. And we should know where our food's coming from. And how about you? Maybe you want to put some questions or comments about that. How many of you garden and wish to garden? I know many people that follow me here, you don't have gardens and you wish you did. And maybe you will one day, maybe you won't, but I'm sure there's farms locally. Like if you lived in New York City. I never did it when I was in New York City, but what I would probably do is I went to farmers markets, but I know they have some places in general all around that are called You Pick Strawberries. So those are pretty cool, but they're not really organic. But I would go to local farms and actually talk to the people and see what they're growing and see, hey, can I can I have some of this? I know now in cities they have community gardens, which are a wonderful idea. If I was still in a big city like New York, I would definitely be involved in a community garden. And just look it up on Google or something, community gardens, and maybe you could have a little plot there and grow your own food. It's cheaper, and you know where the food's coming from. You know who touched it. You're the only one that touched it sometimes. How powerful is that? It's very powerful. So I hope you're encouraged to do that and just seek that out. And, just think about this for a second. The majority of people in this world eat 100% of their food that somebody else touched it. They don't know where it came from. How many of you have ever done what I just did, where I'm the only one to touch this food that I'm about to eat? And I've done it quite often, and it's pretty amazing. So I want to encourage you to grow. You don't need a big space. You just need a big desire to make this happen. And even, if you have a neighbor, let's say you live in an apartment building, you have a neighbor across the street with a little yard, tell them, look, I'll grow the food there for you, and we'll split the food. Work it out with them. I have another neighbor here. I told him, look, let me grow some trees on your property because they don't have anything on their property. And in exchange, I will mow your lawn for you in exchange. And I'll give you some of the food as well. So we work it out together, and that's what you could do. Whatever cool ideas you could think of, that would be a really cool idea too. Maybe go around your whole neighborhood and talk to all your neighbors, and maybe start a community where you're doing that. People that aren't using a yard, you're using their space, and in return you're giving them food or even money, and you could sell that food and pay them money or something. I'm sure people that aren't doing anything with their yards wouldn't mind that. So it could be like an Uber farmer or something where you're doing that. So these are some ideas off the top of my head, but there's so much space that's not being utilized. I mean, you see those bricks right there behind me? That's just a quick, just put some dirt in there and some seeds. And that's another thing. In the past, I bought a lot of plant starters from the store that were a good amount of money. This year, I'm planting the seeds right in and checking them out and doing that. And there's people that are way more advanced than me on the internet that are teaching this and how to do this, and that's how we learn. A good friend of mine, John, at Growing Your Greens, he's a fellow raw food eater, and he's been doing this for a long time. He has a wonderful channel called Growing Your Greens. Just do the best you can do with what you got, but don't think you can't have more than you already have, right? So be the only one. Try one food, whether it's a sprout in your house or whatever it is. Try to pick a food that you're the only person that ever touched it before it goes in your body. All right, that's today's challenge or activity or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, guys, put your comments and questions below what you'd like to see more topics on. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day and have a great raw life.